love talking to people. I love getting to know them and their story, and young people, old people, to know what they value, what their goals are in life. It's so interesting to hear the variety of responses that I've had recently. Oh, I want to grow up and make the world a better place. I want to make an app for environmentally friendly food, and so many great things I'm hearing from the younger generation, that they really want to make the world a better place. And then I think about some of the things that I hear from some older people, that what their goals are. Well, it's a big, huge house and a lot of money in the bank, fancy cars, the externals that seem to define most of our society. It's very interesting how idols are so insidious in our world. They're not just the big things. They're the things that we think are good, success. And yet when success becomes more important to you than anything else, then it has indeed become an idol. The people in Israel were no different than us. They wanted some tangible things. It's much easier to define yourself, isn't it, by tangible external things than simply relying on what God promises, that we are God's masterpieces. So there's almost a comical component to this scripture. It's really, really interesting that God has continued to provide for the Israelites. Manna, water, clouds, fire, every single thing that they needed in a way that no one really expected or could foresee. And yet, and he had asked one thing, God asked one thing of the Israelites, well, 10 actually commandments, but the one that we're going to talk about today is to have no other gods before him. And it didn't take them very long to mess up, did it? They are so much like us. It just doesn't take us very long. And I have such empathy for the Israelites. It's easy for us to cast judgment, isn't it, on either the Israelites or Aaron, because Aaron felt like he needed to do something tangible. So he gets everyone to donate all their gold and fashions the golden calf, which is just absolutely funny to me. It's so much like us, about, once again, our need to have something tangible in our hands that seems like it's the most important thing, rather than this intangible relationship and love of God and with God. So it's been 30 days and 30 nights. I think that's really trying to make a point. The scripture's trying to make a point. This text is making a point. It's been a while for them, very much like we feel right now. We feel it's been a really long time, and it has been a long time before things were where we had a little control over it, or predictable. And the 30 days and 30 nights might be the equivalent to our last 7 months, is what I think. Because waiting is never an easy thing, is it? And God's timing and our timing is a completely different story. I think the Israelites needed something tangible, because we also have tangible needs, very much like we talked about this week about the discussion about when to resume church. We have the tangible need to see each other, to see each other's faces, to feel the Spirit of God that is like no other when we worship. We need that. We need each other. We do. And hopefully in our community, that's why we come to church, to worship God and to be filled up with that Spirit. So we want to share that light and that love and that service. And we are reminded by God's loving presence when we look at each other's faces. Unfortunately, we are like the Israelites too, and we want to do it our timing in our way. And that infuriated God at in this scripture from Exodus. It infuriated God. God's like, no, I'm going to do away with all of you because you just don't get it, do you? You're faithless people and you don't have a lot of staying power. And yet Moses intervenes. Moses says, hey, wait, these are the people that you rescued. These are the people you have chosen and you've created and that you love. And they're your people. The scripture is so awesome for so many different reasons, but it invites us into a study of God's character and the ability maybe for us to have a conversation, a dialogue of real need with God. And what happens in this? Moses is able to remind God that indeed God's people need God, and he can't destroy them. And in fact, God doesn't destroy them, and God won't destroy us. Because there is one thing I know for sure, and I don't know anything else. I know that God's love is something that never, ever stops. And it doesn't depend on how good we are, how patient we are, how perfect we are. That God created us and loved us and urges us to remember that he is the source of the love that we all so desperately seek and need. Then, now, and always. Thanks be to God.